I'm feeling the nostalgia now. Hey guys, my name is Sadie and welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad you're watching this video. Today, this video was heavily inspired by some of my favorite videos that I've been watching lately. One of them was Jackie Aina's video titled Did We Like It or Was It Popular?, where she talked about some makeup products from the past and whether she thought that item was actually worth the hype or if it was just really popular and a lot of people were talking about it at the time. Some of my other favorite YouTubers, Williamson and Smokey Glow, have done videos similar to this one as well. So basically, I'm just going to be talking about some of the makeup products from the past, and these are the products that I heard a lot of people on YouTube talking about, or were the things that I tried that made me really start loving makeup also. And I'll be sharing my thoughts on whether I thought that they were worth the hype or just how impactful they were to the makeup world at the time they were released. So without further ado, let's get into this makeup nostalgia where I will be giving you my thoughts on some of the iconic makeup of the past. Most of these products were released or were popular sometime before 2015 or 2016. Some of them might have come afterwards still, but I was really thinking back to my time in high school and what were the products that I was really excited about or that I watched a ton of reviews on. And the first thing I have to mention, I feel like, is a palette. My love of makeup really started trying a lot of different eyeshadow palettes, and I want to mention Urban Decay's Naked palette, specifically the Naked 2, which is the only one that I have ever tried. I feel like the world and the choices and the variety of eyeshadow palettes of today was not really available at that time. So even walking into some place like Sephora, you had a lot less choices of eyeshadow palettes compared to what you'll find nowadays. And at that time, I felt like I couldn't watch a single makeup favorites video without some mention of an Urban Decay Naked palette. Now, as someone who realizes now that I love and definitely prefer warm tone eyeshadows, I'm surprised in myself that I decided to choose the Naked 2 over the Naked 1, since the Naked 2 was a lot more cooler version of neutrals. But in 2012, I think is when that palette was released. That was just when I really started to get into makeup and I wanted to try a Naked palette, and that was the newest release, so I went with that one. And now thinking back to the quality of that palette and how much I actually reached for it and used it, I really don't think it was worth the money that I paid for it. Even by today's standards, the Naked palettes were really expensive. I think they retailed for $54 or $52, somewhere around that. And this was one of my very first high-end eyeshadow purchases. So to be honest, I was definitely disappointed in the quality when I tried it, but I also did not want to admit it to myself at the time because, you know, it was the Naked palettes. Everybody loved the Naked palettes and this was the newest one. And since then, I haven't tried another Naked palette and I'm not really interested in trying another one. I think for that price and even way less than that, you can find way better, higher quality. Alright, going along with that, Urban Decay Naked palettes, I feel like I also have to mention Urban Decay Primer Potion, which was their version of an eyeshadow primer. And I believe at that point, Urban Decay was also selling mini versions of those primer potions along with every Naked palette. So that was the first time that I had tried it. That was the first eyeshadow primer I had ever used and I felt like it changed my world. And because the Primer Potion was the first primer that I tried, it was the one that I continued to use and continued to buy. Even though now it is by far from my favorite eyeshadow primer, I am definitely more of a MAC Paint Pot kind of person as my go-to eyeshadow primer. Compared to the Paint Pot, the Primer Potion is more liquidy, it's a lot more thin, and doesn't really give your eyelid any coverage. It just is more of a sticking base for your eyeshadows to stick onto. It was fine for what it was, but I am definitely someone who will turn to a paint pot more now. Okay, thinking back again to early popular eyeshadow palettes, I feel like I also have to mention the lorac palettes. Lorac, and specifically the Lorac Pro palettes I felt were super popular and super talked about. I remember it catching my eye because it had more warm tone options as compared to any of the Naked palettes, and that was definitely something I was realizing I was more drawn to. The Pro palette specifically I never purchased, but I did purchase a different palette. I believe it was the Unzipped palette by Lorac, and I actually really loved that one, and to be honest, just only recently got rid of it in my collection. That Unzipped palette I was really shocked and loved the quality of it, and it really started to open up my eyes to warmed tone eyeshadows. Now I can't get enough of them. Now to mention more drugstore affordable eyeshadows at the time, Wet n Wild Color Icon palettes. I know in the past couple of years they've done a redo on the format of these eyeshadows, but the original one I'm thinking of is the ones that were bigger rectangles and all of the shades were labeled with where you were supposed to use them on your eye. Those Color Icon palettes were truly an icon. When it came to affordable eyeshadows, this was before Morphe. I feel like Wet n Wild was running the game when it came to high quality but affordable eyeshadow palettes. And what was so great about these two is that you could walk into a drugstore and purchase these eyeshadows as opposed to something like BH Cosmetics or any of those online retailers where it was a lot more difficult to get your hands on. Wet n Wild, you can go into the drugstore, pay no more than $5 or $6 for 8 eyeshadows that were truly really high quality. And being at that price point, you could experiment more with the different types of palettes and types of color ranges you are going for. Even though the format has changed, I still really love those Wet n Wild Color Icon palettes. When it came to affordable but high quality and pigmented eyeshadows, nobody for a long time had Wet n Wild beat. Okay, this next one I want to mention, actually I was reminded of after watching one of Abby Williamson's videos, and it is Revlon lip butters. Did me and my mom love a Revlon lip butter. So these lip butters were a combination. They were not a lipstick. They were something that were more sheer and were meant to be more moisturizing to the lips. So it was somewhere in between a sheer lipstick and a tinted lip balm. They came in these bright colored quilted packages, and I can just imagine now the number of these that my mom would have sitting in the bottom of her purse. I mentioned before that I'm a very dry-lipped person that kind of runs in my family, so having these more moisturizing options for things that were still pigmented and would still give your lips a color, oh man, did I love and collect these lip butters. And as the name suggests, these lip butters were meant to be buttery soft and buttery smooth. They were it for me. They were a lip balm for me, and they were color. It was everything. I loved collecting them. They were, again, a drugstore price, so more affordable. And at that point in time, it was just really fun to experiment with makeup and experiment with new colors. And these lip butters, every time there was a new launch, just had me so excited. I'm feeling the nostalgia now. All right, and now to the complete opposite of those lip butters, liquid lipsticks. I'm thinking like Anastasia liquid lipsticks, Kat Von D liquid lipsticks, Lime Crime liquid lipsticks. And then again later, Kylie lip kits I felt like really pushed it over the edge. I don't know when those were released, that was a little later on. This was something that I experimented with, and I definitely went through a dark lipstick phase in high school, and I would turn to these liquid lipsticks. Specifically, there's a KVD, Kat Von D, when it was called that back in the day. There's a really dark one that I remember I loved. I don't know who I thought I was fooling, hiding my flaky lips with these liquid lipsticks. Liquid lipsticks are just not for me. They are not the color format that I should be using on my dry lips. And I felt like some of these were just so drying. I mean, obviously the selling point was the staying power of these compared to a traditional lipstick. These were meant to stay on your lips, and because of that, contain things like alcohol that were going to be a lot more drying to your lips, and boy, did I experience that. They had their moment, and I feel like for certain people they are still very important, but you will not see me reaching for another liquid lipstick. Okay, and I just mentioned her name, so let's talk a little bit about her. Anastasia. Even to this day, even though I know they have a lot more products in their line, I still think of Anastasia as the brow brand. I felt like they really early on established themselves as the brow authority. They had these brow kits with stencils and all kinds of different products, but specifically their Brow Wiz, which is just their skinny brow pencil. I felt like, who didn't own this? Who didn't try this brow product? Okay, well, I didn't, but it's sad to say I did neglect my eyebrows for an embarrassingly long amount of time. She didn't know what she was doing. I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing when it comes to brows, but I feel like I'm getting better. Anyways, I never tried the Brow Wiz pencil because I wasn't really a brow pencil kind of person, but when their Dip Brow Pomade came out. Their Dip Brow was already a pretty popular gel, you know, just like that gel that's almost like in a mascara tube and has a brush that you brush it into your brows. But they came out with the Brow Pomade, which is a gel that was super pigmented that came in, it was like in the format of a gel eyeliner. Even though I had no idea what I was doing with my brows, when it came to just brushing in more color or having a more defined underneath edge to my brow, I loved this brow pomade. Alright, and right now I'm just kind of thinking back to some high school trauma, and I thought about this one girl who I really looked up to, who was really popular in school. She tweeted something about how, oh my gosh, I can't believe these girls are walking out here with some obtuse triangle eyebrows. At the time, I didn't know that was me, but now looking back, that could not have encaptured the description of my brows any better. Anyways, cringe! I love this brow pomade. The only thing that was an issue was that it dried out super fast. Also, it was super pigmented, and as someone who was not very experienced with brows, I mean, I would just go to town with this brow pomade. She had some really strong brows at some point. Brow pomade definitely had its moment in the really defined eyebrow point in time. I know some people still go all out with their eyebrows and like that really defined arch in their brow. I'm not so much that kind of person. Loved, bought a ton of these Anastasia brow pomades. Okay, now thinking like way back in time, I'm thinking like 9th grade, even middle school time, Maybelline falsies. When it came to the drugstore, I feel like Maybelline, they really ran the game for a long time. I mean, Maybelline Great Lash, she was and always will be an icon. That watermelon colored packaging. I had friends around me that were wearing makeup earlier than I was, and I would always see a Maybelline mascara in their little makeup bags. Maybelline falsies definitely had a moment in my life. I felt like after I tried that one, I wanted to try all of the different mascaras that Maybelline had, or probably still has. They have so many options when it comes to mascara, and also the packaging was just always bright and eye-catching. But Maybelline falsies really gave you that, you know, they were chunky lashes, they were clumpy lashes, but you know, that was it at the moment. Especially some with me, eyelashes that go like this. I was looking for any sort of help when it came to my eyelashes, and Maybelline falsies, they had me. Okay, and speaking about and thinking of Maybelline Dream Bouncy Blush. I felt like this product walked so all cream blushes and liquid blushes of today could run. But this product truly wasn't like a cream or a liquid blush. It was just the oddest texture. Dream Bouncy Blush, like the product itself felt bouncy. It was very strange. Did I think it was actually a good blush product? No, I didn't, but did a lot of people talk about it, and did I still purchase one and had to bounce the product myself? Yes. Really, at the time, there was just no other option of non-powder blushes, I felt like. Maybe I'm just being naive, but I really can't think of another product that was similar to that at the time. Nowadays, I feel like every brand has their version of a cream or a liquid blush and is just more of the trend these days, but truly back then, it was all about powder blushes. And you know, me these days, I am a cream blush lover, but that product, it just wasn't it. If she was too early. She needed to be worked on a little bit before she was released, but it's okay because where we are now, we can thank Bouncy Blush for that. Okay, I feel like I can't talk about makeup nostalgia without mentioning MAC Cosmetics. Talk about aspiration when it came to makeup in those days. At that time, I really loved watching just like gigantic makeup collection videos, and oh my god, did every single makeup YouTuber have an entire drawer or multiple drawers of MAC lipsticks. I feel like every beauty guru had their favorite MAC lipstick shade, and truly I can't even think to why MAC lipsticks were just so popular at some point. I tried plenty of them, I had plenty of them, and didn't think anything special about their formula. Besides the smell, it smelled like vanilla cupcakes. I'm sure they still do, and that was something like every beauty guru mentioned. And I'm sure a lot of people these days still love them, but I'm just not so much of a lipstick girl. And I feel like even now, MAC as a brand is just not on the pedestal that they used to be. I thought back then, at this point in my life, you would find me with my IKEA Alex 9 drawers filled with rows and rows of MAC lipsticks, but that's not me. Thinking back then, it's a lot easier for me to remember the different colored cosmetics I use as opposed to whatever foundation or what base products I use. I don't know what foundation I was using 8 years ago. I would just buy whatever one caught my eye and used it no matter what it looked like on my skin. But when it comes to complexion, I feel like I must mention Bare Minerals. Even though I know a lot of people still love it and still use it, and their powder foundation is still iconic for what it is, but it just gives me very QVC HSN vibes. Bare Minerals had their whole system of different powder products that you could use to have a airbrushed looking complexion. I don't know, I was never for it. Whenever it came to covering up the acne issues that I was dealing with in my early teenage years, Bare Minerals was not gonna cut it. And with my dry skin that was not being moisturized and not being well taken care of, Bare Minerals really wasn't it for me. Alright, there's one more product I want to end on, and it's a product that just held a very special place in my heart for some reason. I don't know why, I just really love these, and those were the L'Oreal Pressed Pigment Eyeshadows. Specifically, they are the L'Oreal Infallible 24-hour eyeshadow. Again, with marketing things as 24-hour, please do not wear your makeup for 24 hours. When I'm talking about iconic eyeshadows from the drugstore, yes ma'am, these were it. This is a pressed pigment eyeshadow, so in the little single eyeshadow container, all of them came with like a plastic stopper that you were supposed to store it with that packed down the eyeshadow pigment in the container. Ugh, and I just loved these. I know I talked about MAC lipsticks, but also MAC eyeshadows were a big deal too. I felt like everyone had their favorite MAC singles and were building their own MAC eyeshadow palettes. Your girl could not afford that, but these L'Oreal pressed pigments, ugh, I just love them. They had some of the most beautiful sparkly shades I can remember. These champagne shades, these gold shades, these more rust shades, and all of them were truly so beautiful. I loved these. And compared to some of the other glittery or sparkly eyeshadows that I had tried at the time, even ones that were more high-end like the ones in the Naked 2 palette, these were really unlike nothing else. With them being pressed pigments, they were going to stay on your eye more, and there wasn't going to be glitter flaking all over your face, but it was just the pigment itself that was so sparkly, so beautiful. There were a ton of color choices in this line, and thinking of makeup nostalgia, makeup that I was just so excited to buy at the time and loved experimenting with. Ugh, I loved these L'Oreal eyeshadows. I don't know if they still sell them, but if they do, I'm sure they're still amazing. Love them. Okay, and that is it for this installment of Makeup Nostalgia. It was really fun to think back on some of these early makeup loves and iconic makeup products of the past. I definitely have more on my list of these types of products that I can already think of, so I may do a part 2 of this video. It was a really fun one to film and talk about all of these products that I just loved and brought back so many memories. At that time of being in high school and being angsty like any teenager is, I just loved having makeup as a creative outlet of something that was a hobby. I loved watching beauty gurus and experimenting with my own makeup. As a lonely teenager, I will forever be grateful of some of those early beauty gurus on YouTube. Y'all got me through it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment down below if you feel so inclined. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe to stick around. I would so appreciate if you did. And until the next video, I will see you then. Bye.